Hello, and welcome to the Sleepy Scholar. The world outside can be hectic and noisy, but in this space things decelerate. This is a peaceful sanctuary where inquisitive minds can float away to sleep or simply absorb a fact or two while unwinding. Tonight, we aren't just glancing at forests, caverns, and oceans. We are venturing inside them to find some of nature's most enchanting secrets. We will reveal marvels that the majority of people never witness. A flower that blossoms just once in its existence, stones that appear to move by themselves, storms that have persisted for centuries, and trees more ancient than whole civilizations. We will journey softly, fact by fact, across deserts that erupt in sudden flowerings, rivers that flow beneath the ocean, and the silent, incredible methods life uses to endure in every part of the earth. Some of what you learn this evening might astound you. Some might linger with you, like the aroma of rain after a summer shower. And right before we start, if these gentle, curious explorations assist you in relaxing or offer you a tranquil close to your day, please consider liking and subscribing, or just sharing your thoughts in the comments below. It assists others in finding this place as well, one tranquil soul at a time. Now, if you are prepared, let us start. A single teaspoon of soil can hold more living entities than there are humans on Earth. Beneath your feet lies a universe you seldom perceive. In just 1 teaspoon of healthy earth, there can be billions of microscopic beings, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and innumerable tiny creatures such as nematodes and mites. This living web decomposes fallen leaves, recycles vital nutrients, and even corresponds with plants using chemical messages. Many of these life forms are too minuscule to clearly imagine, but collectively they create the basis for every ecosystem on land. Without them, plants would find it hard to grow, and the web of life above the ground would fall apart. Scientists are continually finding new species in soil samples, life forms that have yet to be named or analyzed. It is humbling to realize that beneath the sole of your shoe exists a vibrant metropolis of life so immense it surpasses the entire human race, quietly laboring to sustain our world. Certain plants can move quickly enough to capture prey. Most plants move too gradually for us to detect, growing and turning over days or weeks. But some species move with startling swiftness, fast enough to ensnare an unwary insect. The Venus flytrap, for example, can snap its leaves closed in under a second when tiny hairs within the trap are brushed twice in rapid succession. Some sundews curl their sticky fronds inward, while the waterwheel plant rotates its traps underwater. These actions occur due to shifts in water pressure within the plant's cells, activated by touch. For the insect, it is finished in a moment. 1 second it is investigating, the next it is trapped. These plants inhabit nutrient-deficient soils, so capturing and breaking down prey provides them with the nitrogen essential for survival. Observing one in motion feels almost strange, as if the plant consciously made a choice. Some trees can live for millennia. In the silent corners of the globe, there are trees so ancient that entire civilizations have emerged and vanished in their lifespan. The bristlecone pines of the American West are counted among the most ancient, with some specimens surpassing 4,000 years of age. They grow at a slow pace, twisting into sculpted shapes by wind and snow, their bark weathered, yet still living. Inside the tree's core is a living archive of every year that has gone by, wet years and dry years, storms and seasons. These trees have endured without being toppled simply by adapting, allowing portions of themselves to die off in harsh times, then growing anew when conditions get better. When you stand beside one, you are in the company of something that started its life before the pyramids were constructed, and it is still quietly producing new leaves, one spring after another. certain fungi can manipulate the minds of insects. In the underbrush of tropical forests, a peculiar drama plays out. The Ophiocordyceps fungus infects ants and other insects, spreading throughout their bodies. Once established, it secretes chemicals that change the insect's behavior, forcing it to abandon its colony and ascend to a high, exposed location. There, the fungus terminates its host, sprouting a stalk from its body that scatters spores into the air, poised to infect others below. This is not arbitrary. The altitude and location are ideal for dispersing spores as widely as possible. To us, it sounds almost like science fiction, a parasite seizing control of its host's nervous system to convert it into a vessel for its own propagation. And yet, it is a natural element of the rainforest's intricate web of life, both disquieting and mesmerizing in its exactness. There are locations where it rains fish. In a small town in Honduras named Yoro, inhabitants have a term for a scarce but noteworthy event, lluvia de peces, the rain of fish. Several times a year, typically following intense thunderstorms, people discover small fish flapping on the streets and in the fields. Scientists believe strong winds or waterspouts might scoop up fish from adjacent rivers or the ocean and transport them inland before releasing them with the rain. Some residents view it as a miracle, while others regard it as a natural curiosity. Similar accounts have surfaced in other regions of the world, involving frogs, crabs, and even jellyfish. To see it must feel surreal, to hear the downpour, then observe it shimmering with the motion of living creatures falling from thesky. Some animals can survive being frozen solid. In the far north, certain creatures can halt their lives in the most drastic way conceivable, by freezing. The wood frog of Alaska, for instance, can permit up to 2/3 of its body's water to turn into ice during winter. Its heart ceases to beat, its blood ceases to flow, and yet it is not deceased. Special compounds in its system, like glucose and urea, function as natural antifreeze, stopping its cells from rupturing. When spring arrives and the temperature climbs, the frog thaws out, its heart restarts, and it hops off as if nothing occurred. Some insects, fish, and even tiny microscopic tardigrades employ similar tactics. It is a survival technique that seems beyond belief. Yet nature has honed it over millions of years, enabling life to endure in places where winter is akin to a months-long deep freeze. Lightning strikes Earth millions of times each day. Around the planet, lightning is flashing somewhere at this very second. Scientists approximate that around 8 million strikes happen daily, which is more than 90 times every second. These bolts are created when electrical charges accumulate within clouds or between clouds and the Earth. The air surrounding a bolt is heated to over 30,000 °C in a flash, hotter than the sun's surface. That immediate heat causes the air to expand violently, generating thunder. Lightning does more than just illuminate the sky. It also contributes to our planet's chemistry, helping to create compounds like nitrogen oxides that plants require. In the tropics, where storms are common, the night horizon frequently flickers with remote flashes, a quiet reminder that the atmosphere is perpetually alive with energy. Some fish can walk on land. In tidal zones and marshy regions, certain fish have adapted to move beyond the water. The mud skipper, found in areas of Asia and Africa, utilizes its strong pectoral fins to traverse mudflats, hunting for food and dodging predators. It can take in oxygen through its skin and the lining of its mouth and throat, provided it stays damp. Other fish, such as the climbing perch, can endure out of water for days and even migrate between ponds. These remarkable adaptations permit them to utilize environments where exclusively aquatic fish cannot survive. Observing a fish propel itself along the ground feels almost like witnessing evolution in progress, a peek into the ancient past when life was just beginning to explore the margins of the land. The Amazon rainforest generates its own rain. The Amazon is so immense and thick that it produces its own weather patterns. Every day, the forest discharges billions of liters of water vapor into the atmosphere via a process known as transpiration. This moisture ascends, cools, and forms into clouds, which then fall back as rain, nourishing the very forest that created it. This cycle assists the Amazon in remaining green and vibrant even during drier periods. It also shapes weather far from South America, impacting rainfall patterns thousands of kilometers distant. The sheer magnitude is difficult to comprehend. From high above, the rainforest exhales massive plumes of moisture, forging its own climate and functioning like a colossal heart, circulating water into the atmosphere. There are rivers that flow under the ocean. Beneath the waves, where daylight diminishes, rivers can still run. These underwater rivers are not composed of fresh water, but of heavy, salty, or sediment-laden currents that move along the ocean floor. One such example is located in the Black Sea, where a strong current winds for over 100 kilometers below the surface. These rivers etch channels, transport nutrients, and mold the seabed, much like rivers on land. They frequently form where bodies of water with varying salinities converge, establishing a border where the denser water descends and flows independently. Divers who have navigated them report an uncanny feeling of swimming through one river while inside another. The layers clearly separate in the muted underwater light. Some deserts bloom with flowers overnight. Deserts may appear devoid of life, but their soils frequently conceal seeds lying inactive for years, awaiting the perfect signal. Following a scarce, thorough rain, these seeds can sprout almost instantly. Within hours to days, the desolate ground converts into a tapestry of color, yellows, purples, reds, as thousands of plants blossom simultaneously. This phenomenon might only last a brief period before the heat returns, wilting the flowers and dispersing seeds for the next round. In locations like the Atacama Desert in Chile, these superblooms can be observed from space, an eruption of life against one of the most severe landscapes on Earth. It is nature's signal that even in the most improbable places, beauty and life can emerge in a flash. There are lakes that never freeze, even in the coldest winters. Some lakes resist the seasons. In icy regions, most water surfaces turn to ice, but a select few lakes remain liquid year-round. This can occur for several reasons. Some are sustained by warm underground springs that keep the water from freezing. Others are exceptionally deep, with temperatures in their depths helping to stabilize the surface. In volcanic zones, geothermal warmth radiates upward, maintaining pockets of open water even when the surrounding terrain is completely frozen. These lakes become vital sanctuaries for wildlife in winter, attracting birds and mammals to drink and find food. In the severe quiet of a snow-covered plain, the sight of open, moving water feels almost enchanted. A reminder that warmth can be found in surprising places, supporting life against all odds. Coral reefs are constructed by tiny animals. When you imagine a coral reef, you might envision colorful, rock-like formations bustling with fish. But the reef itself is a living thing, erected by innumerable small creatures known as coral polyps. Each polyp exudes a rigid skeleton of calcium carbonate. And over ages, these skeletons accumulate into enormous structures. New generations of polyps reside on top of the old, fashioning a living metropolis in the ocean. Coral reefs offer sustenance and protection for thousands of species, serving as nurseries for many fish. Although fragile, they can extend for hundreds of kilometers, like the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. From the air, they resemble vibrant streaks in blue water. But up close, every crest and hollow is the creation of animals no larger than a rice grain, slowly moulding the ocean bottom, one minuscule layer at a time. Some birds can fly for months without landing. The common swift is one of nature's most relentless explorers. After it departs the nest, it might spend months airborne without touching down, consuming, resting, and even procreating while in flight. Scientists have monitored swifts migrating thousands of kilometers, journeying between continents, using air currents to conserve power. They can rest in brief intervals, gliding while a portion of their brain sleeps. Other species, such as certain albatrosses, also traverse vast stretches over open sea without stopping, utilizing wind dynamics to remain aloft. To envision living in the sky for such a duration is to see life from an entirely different viewpoint, one where the ground is merely a remote concept and the horizon is the only constant. The air in forests can act as a natural medicine. Enter a forest, inhale deeply, and you might experience an almost immediate sense of peace. Part of this is due to chemicals emitted by trees known as phytoncides. These substances help safeguard plants from insects and illnesses. But when humans breathe them in, they can reduce stress hormones and even fortify immune function. In Japan, this act of spending reflective time in forests is called Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. The benefit is not purely psychological. Studies have demonstrated quantifiable health advantages after time spent surrounded by trees. It is as though the forest imparts a small piece of its resilience to us, a quiet transfer between two living systems carried on the air itself. Volcanoes can create new islands. When a submerged volcano erupts, molten rock can accumulate until it breaks the water's surface, forging entirely new land. These volcanic islands might start as desolate, steaming rock, but eventually winds and currents deliver seeds, birds, and marine life, initiating the gradual process of colonization. Some islands disappear again as waves wear them away, while others develop into lasting homes for plants, animals, and even humans. In 1963, an eruption off Iceland's coast formed the island of Surtsey, which turned into a living laboratory for scientists observing how ecosystems start from nothing. To see an entire island materialize where only ocean existed before is to witness Earth reforming itself in real time. Some animals can regrow entire limbs. If a salamander loses a leg, it is capable of growing a new one, bones, muscles, nerves, and all. Certain species can even regenerate portions of their heart, eyes, or spinal cord. Starfish can regrow lost arms, and if the central disc stays intact, some can regenerate a whole new starfish from just one limb. This amazing capability stems from specialized cells that can transform into any type of tissue required. Humans possess some of the same genetic pathways, but ours are significantly less active. Scientists examine these animals, hoping to find ways to heal severe injuries in people. In nature, regeneration is more than a novelty. It is a survival mechanism, permitting creatures to flee predators and fully recover from harm that would be lasting for most life forms. Glaciers can move like rivers of ice. Although they appear stationary, glaciers are perpetually in motion. Gravity draws them downward, and over months and years, the ice flows like an exceedingly slow river. The pace can be merely a few centimeters a day or, in infrequent surges, several meters. As glaciers advance, they pulverize rock into fine dust, etch valleys, and transform landscapes. When they recede, they leave behind lakes, ridges, and rich soil. Observing a glacier move in real time is almost impossible without specialized instruments. but satellite imagery and time-lapse footage show this steady, unceasing movement, a reminder that even the most solid features on Earth are not truly immobile. There are caves filled with giant crystals. In northern Mexico lies the Cave of the Crystals, a concealed chamber found in the year 2000 beneath an active mine. Inside are some of the biggest natural crystals ever discovered, selenite columns as long as 15 meters shining in the faint light. The cave's intense heat and humidity make it perilous to enter without protective gear, but those who have visited describe it as stepping into a surreal world where the walls themselves seem to glow with light. These crystals, formed over hundreds of thousands of years in mineral-laden water maintained at a stable temperature, a fantastical reminder of the slow, artistic work of geology. Some plants communicate through underground networks. Beneath the forest soil, fungi establish vast networks of fine threads known as mycelium, linking the roots of various plants. Through this wood-wide web, plants can exchange nutrients, transmit chemical messages, and even alert one another to pests. A tree being attacked might emit signals that cause its neighbors to start producing protective substances, or an older tree might channel sugars to a shaded young plant. This cooperation blurs the distinction between individual and collective, showing a hidden layer of complexity in ecosystems. What appears as a silent forest from above is, beneath the ground, humming with quiet interaction. There are forests growing on floating islands. In specific lakes and wetlands, mats of soil, roots and plants detach from the bank and drift across the water. Over time, grasses and bushes take root, and even trees can grow, their roots weaving through the floating mass. Some islands are small enough to be moved by the wind. Others lodge temporarily before detaching once more. These floating forests offer refuge for birds, insects, and fish beneath, and can persist for decades. In some regions of the world, they are part of local legends, places that seem to materialize and fade with the seasons. They are a reminder that even something as fixed as a forest can learn to drift. Certain butterflies can see colors humans can't. Our eyes register three main colors of light: red, green, and blue, which merge into all the hues we perceive. But some butterflies possess far more intricate eyes, with receptors for extra colors, including ultraviolet. This enables them to perceive patterns on flowers and even on other butterflies that are imperceptible to us. These concealed markings assist them in locating food, identifying partners, or evading predators. To picture what they see is to picture a world colored with shades we lack names for, a spectrum outside our own experience, but just as real as the sunlight on our skin. Some animals can change their sex to survive. In certain fish species, like clownfish and wrasses, sex is not permanent. If the dominant female in a collective dies, the largest male might transition into a female to assume her position. Some species switch from female to male instead, guaranteeing the population can still procreate. These changes are not merely behavioral. The animals' bodies experience profound biological shifts, modifying hormone levels, reproductive organs, and even their physical look. It is a survival tactic refined by millions of years of evolution, permitting them to adjust instantly to the requirements of their group. The tallest waves in the ocean can form without storms. Most waves are generated by wind, but rogue waves can materialize unexpectedly, looming over the surrounding sea without any storm to signal their approach. These giants arise when smaller waves join and pool their energy, forging a single wall of water that can be twice the height of anything adjacent. Once dismissed as sailors' tales, rogue waves have been documented by satellites and ocean buoys, some reaching over 30 meters high. They are infrequent but hazardous, strong enough to harm large vessels. Out in the open sea, they can appear and disappear in moments, a reminder that the ocean holds surprises even during calm weather. There are flowers that bloom only once every few decades. Some plants dedicate years, even decades, to preparing for a single blooming. The agave, for instance, might take 30 years to flower, sending up a tall stalk covered in blossoms before perishing shortly after. In the Himalayas, the scarce Himalayan lily awaits years for the ideal conditions before revealing its pale blossoms. These long delays often align with mass flowerings, inundating pollinators and ensuring seeds are dispersed far and wide. It is a gamble, but for the plants that are successful, it is a method to leave behind innumerable offspring in one dazzling, transient moment. Some lakes change color depending on the season. In certain locations, the same lake can look deep blue in summer, green in spring, or even pink at other times. These shifts often result from changes in algae growth, mineral levels, or the way light scatters in the water. For instance, Australia's Lake Hillier is famously bubblegum pink all year due to specific microorganisms, while other lakes transform as their algae colonies ebb and flow. Standing at the shore, it is hard to accept the water has not been artificially colored. Yet, it is all a product of nature's chemistry, painting the surface in seasonal shades. Certain animals never stop growing. While most creatures reach a defined adult size, some persist in growing throughout their lives, a characteristic known as indeterminate growth. Many species of fish, reptiles, and amphibians get larger each year, as long as they have sufficient food and remain alive long enough. This is why some huge catfish, turtles, or crocodiles can achieve extraordinary dimensions in the wild. It also implies that the largest specimens are frequently the most ancient, carrying decades of knowledge in their slow, measured movements. Earth's magnetic field helps animals find their way. From sea turtles traversing oceans to birds migrating between continents, many animals can perceive Earth's magnetic field. This sixth sense originates from specialized cells or magnetic particles within their bodies, enabling them to navigate even when visual cues are not present. Some use it as a secondary system when clouds obscure the stars or the sun. The precise mechanisms are still under investigation, but tests show that manipulating magnetic cues can alter an animal's course. It is as if they possess an unseen compass attuned to the planet itself. There are trees that can walk to find sunlight. In areas of Central and South America, the walking palm develops multiple stilt-like roots that can gradually substitute for each other. If one side of the tree is cast in shadow, it grows new roots toward the light and allows the old ones to wither, shifting its trunk slightly over time. While it does not march across the forest, it can alter its position by several centimeters a year, enough to find better conditions. It is a slow-motion kind of movement that defies our notion of plants as completely stationary. Some plants can store water for years. In the most severe environments, survival can hinge on finding water where none seems to be. Certain plants, like the baobab tree of Africa or desert succulents, hold massive reserves of water in their trunks, stems, or leaves. A baobab's swollen trunk can contain thousands of liters, seeing it through years of drought. These reserves also sustain birds, insects, and mammals during dry periods. In landscapes where rain might not arrive for months or even years, these plants are living reservoirs, holding life within until the world becomes green once more. There are forests residing on drifting islands. In some lakes, swamps, and marshes, segments of land can detach from the bank and float away, carrying their plant life with them. These drifting islands start as mats of interwoven roots and soil, often created when heavy rains or floods detach the shoreline. In time, grasses, shrubs, and even mature trees can establish roots on them, their mass supported by the buoyancy of the thick root system below. Some are small enough to be pushed by every gust, while others are large enough to support entire miniature forests. They become sanctuaries for nesting birds and insects, providing safety from land-based predators. In some regions, local folklore tells of islands that materialize and fade with the seasons, floating silently across the water. Witnessing a forest move, no matter how gradually, feels like observing something that ought to be impossible. A reminder that even the most stable landscapes can choose to roam. Certain butterflies can see colors humans can't. The human eye is sensitive to three main colors: red, green, and blue. From these, we register our entire visible spectrum. But certain butterflies, like the painted lady or the common bluebottle, possess much more intricate vision. Their eyes hold extra types of photoreceptor cells that perceive ultraviolet light, letting them see colors and patterns imperceptible to us. On flowers, these concealed patterns direct them straight to nectar, similar to runway lights on an airfield. On other butterflies, ultraviolet signals can indicate health, availability to mate, or warnings to keep away. We cannot fully grasp what their world appears like, but scientists theorize it would be like introducing entirely new shades to the rainbow. Colors for which we have no words. Patterns that emerge and fade with the shifting light, and a steady glow to flowers that look plain to our eyes. Some animals can change their sex to survive. In the underwater realm, social equilibrium often dictates survival. Clownfish, for instance, reside in small collectives with one primary female. If she perishes, the largest male transforms into a female, assuming her role and guaranteeing the group's survival. Certain wrasses and parrotfish switch in the reverse direction, transitioning from female to male when the social order requires it. These changes entail sweeping hormonal adjustments, the restructuring of reproductive organs, and occasionally even shifts in color or body size. It is not a temporary costume, but a lasting transformation. This adaptation ensures that regardless of what occurs to the group's makeup, reproduction can proceed. To us, it might seem remarkable, but in these ecosystems, it is merely a practical tactic honed over millions of years that keeps life progressing when conditions shift. The tallest waves in the ocean can form without storms. Most people envision massive waves generated by fierce weather, but some of the ocean's greatest walls of water materialize on quiet days. Known as rogue waves, they arise when multiple smaller waves align perfectly, pooling their energies into one colossal crest. This phenomenon, called constructive interference, can forge waves twice as tall as those nearby, sometimes exceeding 30 meters. Once dismissed as sailors' folklore, rogue waves are now verified by satellite data and ocean instruments. They can emerge from an otherwise ordinary sea in minutes, then dissipate just as rapidly. Ships caught in their way frequently have no alert. Seeing one from the deck, an abrupt wall of water filling the horizon, would feel as if the ocean itself had chosen to rise up, reminding us how erratic and mighty it can be, even in moments of seeming tranquility. There are flowers that bloom only once every few decades. Some plants spend decades accumulating energy for a single stunning moment. The agave, for example, grows slowly for 30 years or more before extending a towering stalk covered in hundreds of blossoms. Once it flowers, it perishes, leaving behind seeds for the subsequent generation. In the Himalayas, the scarce Himalayan lily awaits years for precisely the right conditions, temperature, sunlight, and soil moisture, before revealing its delicate blooms. When these plants at last flower, they frequently draw swarms of pollinators, inundating them with abundance to guarantee maximum seed dispersal. It is a high-risk strategy, years of waiting for one brief opportunity at reproduction. If the moment slips by without success, the plant's extended investment is forfeited. But when it is successful, the landscape alters as if the earth had been hoarding beauty for one single fleeting exhibition. Some lakes change color depending on the season. In certain locations, the same body of water can transition through a spectrum of colors. Deep blue one season, vibrant green the next, sometimes even pink or red. These transformations usually stem from seasonal proliferations of algae, shifts in mineral content, or the scattering of sunlight through the water. In Canada's Spotted Lake, mineral-dense pools turn shades of yellow, green and blue in summer as the water recedes. In Australia's Lake Hillier, microorganisms impart a bubblegum pink tint to the water year-round. But in some lakes, similar shifts are temporary and linked to seasonal cycles. Standing at the shore, it can appear as if the lake was colored overnight. But it is entirely the work of nature's chemistry, a reminder that landscapes can shift profoundly without any human intervention. Certain animals never stop growing. While most species possess a defined adult size, some creatures continue growing throughout their entire lives, a characteristic known as indeterminate growth. Many fish, reptiles and amphibians get larger each year, provided they have sufficient food and evade injury or illness. Giant catfish in Southeast Asia, for instance, can grow to over 2 meters in length, while saltwater crocodiles can grow for decades, ultimately becoming enormous apex predators. This slow, continual growth means the largest individuals are also the most ancient, often controlling their environments through sheer size. These elders of their species possess decades of survival wisdom, where to locate food, when to steer clear of danger, and their presence can influence the entire ecosystem around them. Earth's magnetic field helps animals find their way. Imperceptible to us, Earth's magnetic field envelops the planet, steering migratory animals like an unseen map. Sea turtles utilize it to traverse oceans and later find the exact beach where they were born. Birds navigate thousands of kilometers between breeding and wintering locations, modifying their paths as magnetic lines shift subtly over time. Even minuscule creatures like certain bacteria orient themselves with magnetic fields to locate ideal environments. Scientists theorize this sense might originate from microscopic magnetic crystals within their bodies, or from specialized proteins in their eyes that respond to magnetic fields. Whatever the method, it is a reminder that animals perceive layers of the world we cannot directly access, sensing forces that influence every journey they undertake. There are trees that can walk to find sunlight. Deep in Central and South American rainforests, the walking palm has a distinct method of adapting to shifting light. It develops multiple stilt-like roots that can emerge in new directions. If a part of the tree becomes shadowed, it extends roots toward brighter areas, permitting it to shift its trunk slowly, sometimes several centimeters a year. Over time, older roots on the shadowed side wither, leaving the tree standing in a slightly altered location. While it does not walk as animals do, this adaptation assists it in surviving in thick forests where sunlight moves constantly as other plants grow. It is a slow-motion relocation, an almost imperceptible quest toward the light. Some plants can store water for years. In dry landscapes where rain is infrequent and erratic, certain plants have evolved to hold vast quantities of water inside their tissues. The baobab tree, native to parts of Africa, can contain thousands of liters within its swollen trunk, sustaining itself and the animals and people who access it during droughts lasting years. Desert succulents hold water in fleshy leaves and stems, protecting it behind waxy layers to inhibit evaporation. These natural reservoirs function as lifelines for whole ecosystems, offering moisture in the most severe months. In many situations, The water held in these plants is the distinction between survival and demise for the creatures that share their environment. There are glowing bays where the water lights up at night. In a few select coastal locations, the sea awakens after dark with a gentle, ethereal glow. These bioluminescent bays are teeming with microscopic organisms known as dinoflagellates, which radiate light when agitated. Every splash, paddle stroke, or passing fish triggers tiny glimmers, transforming the water into liquid illumination. One of the most renowned examples is Mosquito Bay in Puerto Rico, where the glow is so intense you can follow the path of a swimming turtle by the trail it leaves. The phenomenon results from a chemical reaction within the organisms, much like how fireflies glow on land. Calm, shallow waters and warm temperatures provide ideal conditions for these luminous exhibitions, which can be stunning to observe. Submerge your hand in the water and lift it out. Droplets sparkle momentarily before vanishing, as if the ocean itself is attempting to hold you in its memory. Some mountains grow taller every year. Mountains might appear solid and permanent, but some are, in fact, still ascending. This occurs due to tectonic pressures deep within the Earth. Where continental plates meet, the crust is forced upward, forging mountain ranges that persist in growing millimeter by millimeter annually. The Himalayas, home to Mount Everest, are still ascending as the Indian plate presses against the Eurasian plate. Even though erosion wears mountains down over time, in locations like this, the upward pressure exceeds the rate of weathering. In geological time, it is a swift process, though far too slow for us to perceive day to day. Scientists can track this growth with precise satellite data, observing peaks rise incrementally over decades. It is a reminder that even landscapes we consider ancient and stable are still dynamic, still being molded by the same planetary forces that created them. Certain animals can live without oxygen for months. Most life on Earth requires oxygen to function, but some have evolved to manage without it for remarkable durations. The painted turtle, for example, can hibernate underwater in frozen lakes for over 4 months, surviving without oxygen by reducing its metabolism and shifting to anaerobic energy production. Some worms and tiny crustaceans in deep, oxygen-lacking sediments have adapted to derive energy in ways that circumvent oxygen completely. Even more remarkably, scientists have found tiny jellyfish-like animals called Heneguia salminicola that lack mitochondria, meaning they do not utilize oxygen whatsoever. For these creatures, oxygen is not just unnecessary, it is irrelevant. Such adaptations permit them to flourish in environments where most life could not endure for more than a few minutes, demonstrating that survival can manifest in forms we would not have thought possible. Rainbows can appear as full circles from the air. From the ground, rainbows always look like arcs, their lower portions obscured by the horizon. But from higher up, such as from an airplane or a tall mountain, you can occasionally perceive them as flawless circles. This occurs because a rainbow is actually a complete ring of light formed when sunlight is bent and reflected inside water droplets. On land, the ground obstructs the lower portion of the circle from our view. From high in the air, with no blockage, the entire ring becomes visible. Pilots frequently observe these circular rainbows, sometimes encircling the shadow of their own plane, a phenomenon called a glory. It is a clear reminder that the beauty we perceive is often just one part of the entire picture. And that viewpoint, quite literally, can show a world that was present all along, just beyond our sight. Some deserts are colder than ice. When we picture deserts, we envision intense heat. But a desert is characterized by its dryness, not its temperature. The biggest deserts on Earth, Antarctica and the Arctic, are frozen terrains where precipitation is so infrequent they are classified as deserts. Antarctica is the coldest, driest and windiest location on the planet, with temperatures dropping below 70 degrees C. Yet, beneath the ice, microbial life endures in pockets of liquid water, and hardy lichens adhere to exposed rocks. These polar deserts are as severe as any hot desert, their appeal found in sharp contrasts: the brilliant whiteness of snow under perpetual daylight in summer, the strange blue shimmer of ice caverns, and the frozen quiet that can last for centuries unaltered. It is a reminder that desert does not always imply sand and warmth. Sometimes it implies ice and quiet. There are waterfalls that flow upward in strong winds. In specific situations, powerful winds can intercept the falling water of a high waterfall and drive it back upward, creating the bizarre illusion of water-resisting gravity. This phenomenon is most frequent on coastal cliffs where sea winds are channeled upward along the rock face. The wind's pressure can be so intense that the waterfall seems to move in reverse, its mist surging into the sky. In truth, the water is not returning to its origin. It is being atomized into mist and carried off. The display is brief, lasting only as long as the strong winds persist. But it can make a known landscape feel altered, as if the laws of nature had temporarily been suspended. Some seeds can survive for thousands of years before growing. Seeds are nature's own time capsules. Shielded by resilient outer shells, some can remain inactive for centuries, awaiting the ideal conditions to germinate. In one notable instance, scientists sprouted a date, palm seed discovered in the ruins of Masada, Israel, that was nearly 2,000 years old. Certain Arctic tundra plants create seeds that can endure even longer in the frozen ground. Inside, the embryo is held in a state of near-zero activity, its stored energy preserved. When warmth, moisture, and light return, the seed awakens and starts to grow, spanning vast stretches of time in a single motion of renewal. It is as if the plant has been holding its breath for ages, prepared to return to life when the world is ready for it. There are animals that can clone themselves. Some creatures can reproduce without a partner, generating precise genetic copies of themselves. This method, known as asexual reproduction, is frequent in simple organisms, but also happens in more complex animals. Starfish can regrow lost limbs, and in some instances, a whole new starfish can develop from a single arm. Certain freshwater hydras simply bud off smaller versions of themselves, while some insects can produce eggs that mature into clones without any fertilization. In unchanging environments, cloning permits a species to increase its numbers rapidly without the need to locate partners. The trade-off is reduced genetic variety, which can make a population susceptible to change, but in the correct circumstances, it is a remarkably effective method to guarantee survival. Certain plants can count the hours of daylight. Many plants possess an internal clock, a circadian rhythm, that assists them in tracking time. Some utilize this capability to gauge the length of the day, a process called photoperiodism, which informs them when to flower, grow, or drop their leaves. For instance, chrysanthemums flower only when nights achieve a specific duration, while others wait for days to be sufficiently long to guarantee summer pollination. This awareness can be so exact that plants kept in artificial light conditions will still open and close their flowers at the proper times, even lacking cues from the sun. It is a subtle form of awareness, permitting plants to coordinate their lives with the shifting seasons. There are clouds heavier than mountains. A single large thundercloud can contain millions of tons of water, far exceeding the mass of an entire mountain. The reason it does not all descend at once is that the water is held in minuscule droplets or ice crystals, dispersed over a huge area and kept aloft by upward air currents. When the conditions alter, some of that water condenses and descends as rain, hail, or snow. These massive clouds can extend for kilometers across and rise high into the atmosphere, their tops shining white in the sun, while their undersides royal with shadows. Observing one on the horizon, it is difficult to grasp that something so ethereal could be so massive, yet they float above as lightly as a handful of feathers. Some creatures can survive in boiling water. In the severe environments surrounding deep-sea hydrothermal vents, water temperatures can climb above 100 degrees C, hot enough to instantly kill most life. Yet, certain microorganisms known as hyperthermophiles flourish here. They have developed proteins and cellular structures that stay stable at intense heat, permitting them to endure where others would be destroyed. Some reside in the scalding discharge of geysers on land, such as those in Yellowstone National Park. These heat-tolerant microbes form the foundation of whole food webs, sustaining tube worms, clams, and crabs that gather around vent sites. Analyzing them has uncovered enzymes that can tolerate temperatures far beyond what was once believed possible for life, challenging our grasp of biology and broadening our hunt for life in hot, quote, environments beyond Earth. In places where water boils and darkness prevails, they quietly thrive, showing that life's tolerances are far greater than we once assumed. The ocean's deepest point is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Far below the Pacific Ocean rests the Mariana Trench, location of the Challenger Deep, the deepest known spot in Earth's oceans. At nearly 11 kilometers down, it is deeper than Mount Everest is high above sea level. The pressure there is more than 1,000 times greater than at the surface, sufficient to implode most submarines. The darkness is complete and temperatures remain just above freezing. Yet life persists even here. Tiny amphipods, unusual snailfish, and hardy microbes endure in this crushing environment, subsisting on organic matter that sinks down from the upper ocean. Very few individuals have ever journeyed to the Challenger Deep, but robotic probes have charted its alien terrain of inclines, trenches, and sediment. It is a reminder that some of Earth's most severe frontiers are still largely uncharted, not in distant space, but in the silent recesses of our own planet's seas. Certain fish create their own underwater light shows. In the deep sea, where sunlight never penetrates, many creatures generate light through bioluminescence. Some fish utilize it not just to draw prey or conceal themselves from predators, but also to signal one another. The flashlight fish, for instance, possesses light-generating organs beneath its eyes that it can blink by covering them with flaps of skin. Lanternfish have glowing patterns along their flanks, which might assist them in identifying each other in the gloom. Some species flash in rhythmic sequences, forming patterns akin to Morse code in the water. These exhibitions can be captivating, a drifting dance of lights in utter darkness, as though the ocean floor had its own constellations. In a world lacking sunlight, light itself becomes a language, composed in flickers and sheens, recounting stories we're only just starting to decipher. Some plants can taste when they're being eaten. Plants might appear inactive, but many can detect and react to harm almost immediately. When a caterpillar chews on a leaf, some plants identify specific compounds in the insect's saliva. This prompts the release of defensive substances, bitter or toxic chemicals that render the leaf less appealing. In some instances, the plant even releases airborne signals that alert adjacent plants to trigger their own protective measures. This capability does not use taste buds like ours, but rather chemical sensing at the cellular level. To an insect, it is as if the food abruptly turns foul mid-chew. The process demonstrates that plants are far from unaware. They are active participants in their own survival, capable of sensing the world in ways that are subtle but incredibly effective. There are places where stones move on their own. In California's Racetrack Playa, a dry lakebed in Death Valley, large stones appear to glide across the ground, leaving long trails behind them. For decades, nobody understood how they moved, particularly since no one had ever witnessed it occurring. The puzzle was solved when scientists found that in specific winter conditions, a thin layer of ice develops beneath the rocks. As the ice warms and fragments, gentle winds push the rocks gradually across the slippery surface. The motion is so slow, it can require hours for a rock to cover just a few meters. The outcome is a landscape marked with peculiar trails, as if the stones had embarked on a nighttime trek across the desert floor. Certain birds can mimic almost any sound. Some birds are talented mimics. The lyrebird of Australia can replicate chainsaws, camera shutters, other bird songs, and even human voices with startling precision. Mockingbirds in North America incorporate dozens of varied sounds into their melodies, copying frogs, crickets, and vehicle alarms. These skills serve multiple functions, attracting partners, protecting territory, or merely demonstrating. Young birds frequently acquire their repertoires by listening intently to their environment, and the most skilled mimics can transmit these learned sounds through generations. To hear a bird in the woods replicate the exact sound of a barking dog is both startling and strangely amusing, a reminder that nature's sounds are not always what they appear to be. Some insects can see in ultraviolet light. While humans perceive only a limited spectrum of wavelengths, many insects can register ultraviolet, UV light, revealing patterns that are invisible to us. Flowers often possess UV markings that serve as landing guides, directing pollinators directly to their nectar. Bees, butterflies, and some beetles navigate partly by interpreting these patterns, which might appear to them like luminous signals in the dark. UV vision can also assist insects in detecting predators or locating mates. For them, the world is colored with hues and contrasts we cannot fathom. The same landscapes we recognize, but with an unseen dimension of light. The Sahara Desert was once green and full of life. Thousands of years ago, the Sahara was not a limitless stretch of sand, but a huge savanna with lakes, rivers, and grasslands. Proof from ancient lake beds, rock carvings, and fossilized pollen indicates that hippos, crocodiles, and early human populations flourished there. This green Sahara existed because shifts in Earth's tilt and orbit pushed monsoon rains further north, altering the region. Over millennia, those patterns shifted once more, drying the land into the desert we recognize today. It is a stark illustration of how climates can alter profoundly, changing entire ecosystems and the trajectory of human history. Beneath the sand, evidence of its verdant past remains buried, awaiting discovery. There are storms that last for centuries. On Jupiter, the Great Red Spot, a colossal storm larger than Earth, has been active for at least 300 years, perhaps much longer. While our own planet's storms endure for days or weeks, Jupiter's operate on a different timeline. Fueled by the planet's chaotic atmosphere and the absence of a solid surface, the storm continues to rotate with winds hitting hundreds of kilometers per hour. From space, it looks like a swirling red oval, a lasting mark in the gas giant's cloud layers. Observing it helps scientists comprehend not only Jupiter, but also how atmospheric dynamics might function on other planets. Certain frogs can turn transparent. The glass frogs of Central and South America possess skin so translucent that their internal organs are visible. When at rest, they can redirect blood away from their skin to make themselves even more see-through, melding into leaves and dodging predators. This capability is not just for camouflage, it also aids in regulating their body temperature and shields them from UV radiation. Seeing one up close feels almost surreal, as if you were observing a living anatomical chart, its heartbeat and motions apparent beneath a delicate green exterior. Some trees can produce hundreds of gallons of sap in a season. Certain species, like the sugar maple, can provide vast quantities of sap each year. In late winter and early spring, when temperatures fluctuate between freezing nights and thawing days, pressure within the tree alters, driving sap through its channels. Farmers and collectors tap into this flow by drilling small openings and gathering the liquid, which is primarily water with a trace of sugar. It can require more than 40 liters of sap to create a single liter of maple syrup. But in a productive season, one mature tree might yield hundreds of liters. Sap is more than just a sweet resource for humans. It moves water and nutrients to every part of the tree, powering new growth. Watching the clear liquid drip consistently from a tap in a sunlit wood feels like glimpsing the tree's own pulse, flowing in time with the slow progression of spring. There are rivers that boil. Deep in the Peruvian Amazon flows a river known as Xanetimpishka, or boiled with the heat of the sun. Its water can achieve temperatures near 100 degrees Celsius, hot enough to kill small creatures that fall in. Unlike volcanic hot springs, this river's warmth originates from geothermal activity far below ground, where water filters deep into the earth, heats up, and rises back to the surface. The boiling river is over 6 kilometers long, winding through thick jungle and enveloped in steam that rises up into the canopy. For the local communities, it holds cultural and spiritual importance. But it is also a scientific puzzle, a reminder that even distant from volcanoes, the Earth's heat can mold the landscape in dramatic ways. Walking its banks, you would observe leaves shriveling from the steam and hear the bubbling water, alive with warmth in the center of the rainforest. Certain animals can live entirely in darkness. In the deepest caves and ocean trenches, some animals are born into a world without light and never depart from it. These species frequently lose their eyes entirely, depending instead on amplified senses of touch, smell, or vibration. The Mexican blind cavefish, for instance, has skin that can perceive subtle shifts in water currents, allowing it to navigate and locate food in complete darkness. Deep-sea creatures like the tripod fish use their elongated fins to probe along the seafloor, sensing their environment without sight. In these pitch-black settings, vision is non-essential, so energy is better utilized for other adaptations. Life in darkness might appear restrictive to us, but for these animals, it is perfectly standard. A full, thriving existence in a world beyond the sun's reach. Some shells grow in perfect mathematical spirals. Many mollusks and other shell-building animals adhere to growth patterns that form spirals so exact they can be represented by mathematical equations. The nautilus, for example, constructs its shell in a logarithmic spiral, adding larger chambers as it develops while retaining the same overall form. This design is both resilient and efficient, providing the animal with protection and buoyancy management. Such spirals are seen elsewhere in nature, in sunflowers, hurricanes, and galaxies, hinting at a widespread tendency towards specific patterns. When you hold a shell and trace its spiral inward, you are following a route that nature has replicated on vastly different scales, from the tiniest seashell to the sweeping arms of the Milky Way. There are clouds that glow in the night sky. High in the atmosphere, more than 80 kilometers above the surface, delicate clouds sometimes shimmer after sundown with a silvery blue light. These are noctilucent clouds, formed when ice crystals collect on dust particles in the upper mesosphere. They are lit not by the sun directly above, but by sunlight from over the horizon, shining against the darkening twilight. Most often seen at high latitudes in summer, they seem almost illusory, ethereal veils drifting in the upper atmosphere. Scientists believe they might be getting more frequent as changes in Earth's atmosphere supply more moisture at high altitudes. Observing them feels like seeing the sky itself inhaling in silver. Certain spiders can sail across the ocean. Some spider species use silk not only for webs but for transport, in a behavior known as ballooning. They eject strands into the air, which catch the wind and pull them off the ground. While most ballooning trips are brief, some spiders have been discovered hundreds of kilometers out at sea, their silk catching ocean breezes like miniature sails. Scientists theorize they can endure by landing on floating debris and capturing airborne insects. This capability permits spiders to populate new islands and distant coastlines, arriving as some of the initial settlers after volcanic events or other disruptions. Watching one float into the air, lifted upward by nothing more than a thread, feels like witnessing an unlikely voyage commence. Some animals can survive for years without food. In severe environments, survival sometimes requires enduring extended periods without a meal. The olm, a cave-residing salamander found in parts of Europe, can go without food for up to 10 years by drastically slowing its metabolism. Crocodiles and certain snakes can survive more than a year without feeding, subsisting on stored body fat. Even minuscule creatures like tardigrades can enter an inactive state called cryptobiosis, pausing nearly all biological functions until conditions get better. These tactics are not just about resilience. They allow animals to persist in habitats where food arrives in scarce, erratic bursts, proving that patience can be just as crucial as speed in the natural world. There are forests beneath the ocean. Off the coasts of many continents lie immense underwater kelp forests, swaying softly with the currents. Giant kelp can grow over 0.5 meter a day, achieving heights of more than 30 meters, forming a submerged canopy that harbors fish, sea otters, and innumerable other species. These forests function as nurseries for marine life and help shield coastlines by diminishing the power of waves. Sunlight filtering through the kelp imparts an emerald hue to the water, and the motion of the fronds can feel almost mesmerizing to divers. Like forests on land, they are intricate ecosystems. Only here, the trees are composed of flexible, leaf-like fronds anchored to the ocean bottom. Certain birds can sleep while flying. Some birds, like the frigate bird, spend days or even weeks airborne without stopping. Scientists have found that they can rest by deactivating 1/2 of their brain at a time, permitting them to sustain flight while still obtaining some sleep. This uni-hemispheric slow-wave sleep allows them to glide easily, riding air currents while remaining sufficiently aware to navigate and evade danger. Even when fully resting, they may keep circling on rising thermals, hardly flapping their wings. It is an adaptation that allows them to traverse vast distances without pause, transforming the sky itself into their resting place. Some rocks can sing when the wind passes over them. In specific desert landscapes, steady winds can cause large boulders or dunes to vibrate, generating deep, resonant sounds that travel for kilometers. These singing rocks, or booming dunes, create sounds that can persist for minutes after a disturbance, caused by grains of sand or rock surfaces rubbing together in just the right manner. Marco Polo described hearing such sounds in the Gobi Desert centuries ago. The effect is haunting, a natural low hum that seems to originate from the earth itself, as if the landscape were breathing a slow, resonant song into the air. There are deserts made of pure white sand. Not all deserts are the color of golden straw. In southern New Mexico lies White Sands National Park, a vast stretch of brilliant white dunes extending as far as the eye can perceive. The sand here is composed of gypsum crystals, a mineral that is uncommon in large dune fields because it dissolves readily in water. But in this desert basin, there is no outlet for water to flow. So when ancient lakes evaporated, they left behind dense layers of gypsum. Over thousands of years, Wind molded them into rippling dunes that glitter under the sun and shine pale blue in the moonlight. Walking here feels almost like stepping onto snow, only the air is warm and the ground shifts softly underfoot. The whiteness is so intense it can be observed from space, a shining desert unlike any other on Earth. Some jellyfish can live forever. The tiny jellyfish Turritopsis dohornii possesses a remarkable capability. When stressed, hurt, or close to death, it can revert its cells to an earlier stage of life and restart its life cycle. Instead of perishing, it essentially transforms back into a juvenile polyp and commences growing anew. This process, called transdifferentiation, allows it to potentially evade death from old age completely, rendering it biologically immortal, though it can still be consumed or die from illness. Found in oceans globally, these jellyfish are only a few millimeters wide, their delicate forms nearly transparent. While immortality remains more of a survival tactic than a certainty, it is an amazing reminder that in nature, even something as conclusive as aging can occasionally be reversed. Certain ants farm their own food. Leafcutter ants are among the most diligent farmers on Earth. They slice and transport pieces of leaves back to their subterranean colonies, not to consume directly, but to feed to a specific type of fungus they grow in meticulously managed gardens. The fungus decomposes the tough plant matter into nourishment the ants can process. This relationship is so exact that the fungus cannot survive without the ants, and the ants cannot survive without the fungus. Colonies can house millions of individuals, each with a specific duty, from slicing leaves to managing gardens to protecting the nest. It is an entire agricultural operation concealed beneath the forest floor, perfected over millions of years, long before humans started farming. There are flowers that smell like rotting meat. Some plants draw pollinators not with sweet aromas, but with the sharp odor of decay. The corpse flower, Amorphophilus titanum, can grow over 3 meters tall and emits a potent smell that imitates rotting flesh. This odor attracts carrion beetles and flesh flies, which would typically seek out dead animals to lay their eggs. Instead, they assist in pollinating the flower. The bloom is infrequent, often materializing only once every few years and lasts for just a couple of days. During this period, the plant even heats itself to help disperse the smell further. For those who can tolerate the scent, it is an unforgettable spectacle, a massive, strange bloom that employs trickery to attract its helpers. Some trees can survive complete fires. In fire-susceptible regions, certain trees have evolved to tolerate even the most severe blazes. The giant sequoias of California, for instance, have dense, fibrous bark that can be up to 60 cm thick, shielding them from heat. Some species of eucalyptus and pine possess buds protected beneath their bark, permitting them to regrow swiftly after a fire. In fact, for many trees, fire is crucial. It removes competing plants and assists their seeds in germinating. Sequoia cones, for example, open in reaction to heat, dropping seeds onto freshly cleared, nutrient-rich soil. These adaptations convert destruction into an opportunity, ensuring that fire is not a conclusion, but a commencement. There are animals that can see Earth's magnetic field. Some species, including certain birds, sea turtles, and even dogs, seem to possess the capability to perceive the planet's magnetic field. This sense, called magnetoception, is believed to originate from special proteins in their eyes or tiny magnetic particles in their bodies. Birds use it to navigate during migration, sea turtles to return to their hatching site, and some mammals may use it to orient themselves while moving. For these animals, the magnetic field is like an unseen map layered over the world, steering them across immense distances. It is a sense humans can only try to imagine. a steady awareness of the invisible lines that encircle the planet. Certain lakes are so clear you can see for hundreds of feet. Some bodies of water are so clean and undisturbed that visibility extends down for remarkable depths. Blue Lake in New Zealand, for instance, is regarded as the clearest natural freshwater in the world, with visibility reaching up to 80 meters. The clarity results from water being filtered through layers of rock and sand, clearing nearly all particles. In locations like this, gazing into the water feels like looking through glass into a different realm. Schools of fish appear to drift in the air, and the lakebed's colors are visible with striking clarity. Such immaculate waters are scarce and delicate, easily obscured by even minor disruptions. Some whales sing songs that travel across entire oceans. Humpback whales are known for their haunting melodies, long, intricate series of sounds that can continue for hours. These songs move for hundreds, sometimes thousands of kilometers through the deep ocean, transported effectively by water. Males sing most frequently during the breeding season, and the songs can alter over time, spreading through whale populations like evolving folk music. Researchers believe they might function to attract partners, claim territory, or communicate over vast distances. Listening to a whale song recorded far from land feels like hearing a voice from a different existence, slow, strong, and echoing with the immensity of the sea. There are storms that produce blue lightning. While most lightning looks white or yellow, certain volcanic eruptions can generate vivid blue flashes. This phenomenon, known as volcanic lightning, happens when ash particles in the eruption plume collide, accumulating electrical charges. The blue hue results from the ionization of volcanic gases like sulfur dioxide. These scarce storms are both magnificent and perilous, their strange glow lighting up the churning ash clouds. Seen against the dark sky, blue lightning appears almost artificial, as if the volcano were conjuring fire from another dimension. Certain mosses can survive in space. Some species of moss and other simple plants have demonstrated an extraordinary capacity to endure the severe conditions of space. In trials on the International Space Station, mosses subjected to the vacuum, radiation, and extreme temperatures of space revived once brought back to normal conditions. Their durability stems from specialized proteins and cellular structures that shield against dehydration and DNA damage. This capability makes them valuable subjects for inquiry into how life might persist on other planets. The fact that a small green patch of moss can survive where almost nothing else can is a quiet but strong reminder of life's resilience. Some mushrooms glow in the dark. In forests across the globe, certain fungi create a soft, ethereal light known as bioluminescence. This glow is the product of a chemical reaction involving luciferin, an organic compound also present in fireflies. Scientists believe the light might draw insects that help disperse the fungus's spores, or it might repel animals that would otherwise consume them. The most vivid examples, like the foxfire fungi of North America or the Mycena chlorophyll mushrooms of Asia, can light up the forest floor with an eerie green glow on dark nights. For centuries, travelers recounted tales of glowing wood in the forests, unaware they were observing living fungi at work. Walking through such a forest feels surreal, as if the ground itself is dusted with fallen stars, shining softly until sunrise. There are plants that can live entirely underwater. While many plants endure occasional submersion, some are fully adapted to spend their whole lives submerged. Aquatic plants like eelgrass, pondweed, and certain water lily species have evolved thin, pliable leaves that shift with currents and specialized tissues that move oxygen from their leaves down to their roots. These plants photosynthesize just like land plants, but they extract dissolved carbon dioxide from the water rather than the air. In clear, shallow lakes, thick meadows of underwater plants form habitats for fish, amphibians, and innumerable invertebrates. They also assist in stabilizing sediment and maintaining water clarity by absorbing surplus nutrients. Though concealed from sight, these underwater fields are as crucial to their ecosystems as any forest above the surface. Certain insects migrate farther than any other animal. Each year, tiny globe skimmer dragonflies undertake an incredible migration of over 18,000 kilometers, journeying from India across the Indian Ocean to Africa and returning. This trek, achieved over multiple generations, might be the longest migration of any insect. Wombat butterflies also make amazing journeys, flying thousands of kilometers from Canada and the United States to wintering locations in central Mexico. These migrations are directed by environmental signals like temperature, daylight duration, and even the Earth's magnetic field. For such small creatures, the stamina and navigation required are astounding. Their journeys cover vast distances that rival even the largest and strongest animals, showing that size is no barrier to ambition in the natural world. Some rivers disappear underground and reappear miles away. In karst landscapes, where limestone bedrock is filled with cracks and caverns, rivers can vanish into the earth, flowing unseen through subterranean channels before surfacing far downstream. The Puerto Princesa underground river in the Philippines moves for over 8 kilometers beneath the ground before emptying into the sea. In some situations, explorers can trace these hidden waterways through immense underground chambers, their ceilings sparkling with mineral deposits. These vanishing rivers shape the land both above and below, carving tunnels, feeding springs, and fostering unique ecosystems, both in the dark and at the point where they return to the daylight. There are forests where the trees all share the same root system. Some groves of trees are not composed of separate individuals at all. They are a single organism linked underground. Aspen forests, for instance, can sprout from one root network, sending up new trunks known as suckers. Above ground, each tree might appear distinct, but below they are genetically identical and share resources like water and nutrients. The biggest known example is a quaking aspen colony in Utah named Pando, which covers over 40 hectares and is thought to be thousands of years old. This subterranean link permits the forest to bounce back quickly from harm as new stems emerge to replace what was lost. Certain flowers change color to attract different pollinators. Some flowers alter their hues as they mature, sending messages to potential pollinators. The tropical plant Lantana camara, for example, opens with yellow blossoms that later shift to orange and red. Pollinators like butterflies and bees quickly discover that the younger flowers contain more nectar, while older ones are less fruitful. This color change helps guarantee that pollinators concentrate on the flowers most likely to be fertile, boosting the plant's chances of reproduction. In some alpine species, flowers shift color after pollination to signal to pollinators not to expend their time, a quiet visual dialogue between plant and animal. Some mountains are made entirely of salt. In specific regions of the world, ancient seas evaporated millions of years ago, leaving behind colossal deposits of salt. Over time, tectonic pressures thrust these deposits upward into mountains. Iran's Koué Namak Mount of Salt is a notable example, with shining white slopes streaked with mineral hues. In Bolivia, the world's largest salt flat, Salar de Uyuni, also conceals raised ridges of pure salt at its margins. These salt mountains are gradually worn down by wind and rain, revealing crystalline formations and sometimes even caverns within. Their existence is a reminder that today's highest locations were once ocean floors. There are plants that remember past droughts. Some plants possess the capacity to modify their growth and water consumption based on prior experiences of drought. Scientists have discovered that following a phase of severe dryness, certain plants can remember the stress through alterations in their gene expression. If another drought happens, they react more swiftly, closing their leaf pores to hold water and triggering protective chemicals. This memory does not utilize a brain, but rather stored chemical signals that persist long after the initial occurrence. Such adaptations permit them to endure in erratic climates where resilience can be the difference between surviving and perishing. Certain fish can leap up waterfalls. During spawning journeys, some fish must move upstream against strong currents, jumping up waterfalls to access their breeding areas. Salmon are the most renowned for this accomplishment, propelling themselves with amazing accuracy to land in the pools above each cascade. Smaller species, like gobies in Hawaii, ascend waterfalls using suction cup-like fins, inching their way up vertical rock faces. These journeys are draining but vital, ensuring the fish return to the precise environments where they were hatched. The sight of a fish launching itself repeatedly at a thundering waterfall is a powerful testament to determination against gravity itself. Some deserts have lakes hidden deep below the sand. Beneath the desolate surfaces of some deserts lie huge underground reservoirs called aquifers. In locations like the Sahara, these concealed lakes can span for hundreds of kilometers, containing ancient water that fell as rain millennia ago. On occasion, this water emerges at the surface through springs or oases, forming pockets of green in an otherwise barren expanse. In other instances, it stays confined far below, found only through deep wells. These subterranean lakes are lifelines for people, animals, and plants, proving that even in the most severe landscapes, the potential for life-sustaining water can be quietly held in reserve, awaiting its time to return. There are animals that can survive in both boiling and freezing water. Some of the most resilient survivors on Earth exist in conditions that fluctuate between scorching heat and intense cold. Certain species of extremophile microbes flourish in deep-sea hydrothermal vents where temperatures can surpass 100 degrees Celsius, yet can also tolerate near-freezing waters between thermal events. The Antarctic icefish resides in sub-zero seas due to antifreeze proteins in its blood, but similar adaptations are found in species that also endure high heat. Tardigrades, microscopic water bears, can survive both boiling temperatures and being frozen solid by entering a state called cryptobiosis, where their bodies dehydrate and metabolic activity almost ceases. These creatures demonstrate that life's tolerances are far more pliable than we assume, enduring conditions that would annihilate most living things and thriving in places where extremes are side by side. Certain birds navigate using the stars. For thousands of years, migratory birds have journeyed vast distances with stunning precision. Some species, like the indigo bunting, use the alignment of constellations around the North Star to orient themselves at night. Even young birds raised in labs without previous migration experience can identify these celestial markers. In the southern hemisphere, other stars act as navigational aids. Birds merge this celestial map with their perception of Earth's magnetic field and the Sun's position to form a complex navigation system. Tests in planetariums have shown that modifying the star alignments can disorient them, verifying that the night sky itself acts as their guide. It is a capability that predates human navigation, embedded in their instincts and refined over innumerable migrations. Some animals use tools to solve problems. Tool use was previously considered to be exclusively human, but many animals have shown otherwise. Chimpanzees pull leaves off twigs to create termite fishing sticks. Sea otters use rocks to break open shellfish on their stomachs as they float. Crows drop nuts onto streets for cars to break, then retrieve them when it is safe. Even dolphins have been seen carrying marine sponges over their beaks to shield themselves while foraging near sharp coral. These actions often demand learning, ingenuity, and sometimes instruction between generations. Tool use blurs the distinction between instinct and analysis, showing that intelligence manifests in many forms in the animal kingdom and that we share more with other creatures than we might realize. There are caves that breathe. In some cave systems, the air appears to flow in and out, as if the cave itself were living. This breathing occurs when the external air pressure alters due to weather or temperature changes, pushing air into or pulling it out of the cave's entrances. In vast cave networks, the phenomenon can be surprisingly powerful, strong enough to move leaves, stir up dust, or even extinguish flames near an opening. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky and Wind Cave in South Dakota are renowned for this effect. To enter one of these caves and perceive the cool air exhaling from the earth is to be reminded that subterranean spaces are not static. They are linked to the dynamic atmosphere above. Certain trees release scents to warn others of danger. When besieged by insects, some trees emit airborne chemicals that drift to adjacent trees of the same species. These neighboring trees perceive the warning and react by generating bitter or toxic compounds in their leaves, making themselves less appealing to the pests. Acacia trees in Africa are known to do this, filling the air with signals that can cause an entire group of trees to protect itself almost at once. The same chemicals can also draw predators or parasites that prey on the attacking insects. It is a silent warning system carried by the breeze, transforming a forest into a collective that looks after its own. Some oceans have underwater rivers and waterfalls. Beneath the sea's surface, variations in temperature, salinity, and density can generate currents that flow like rivers along the ocean floor. In some instances, these underwater rivers drop over ledges, creating submerged waterfalls. The largest known example is in the Denmark Strait, between Greenland and Iceland, where dense cold water from the Arctic flows beneath warmer Atlantic water, dropping nearly 3,500 meters, more than 3 times the height of Angel Falls. These hidden currents shape ocean circulation, move nutrients, and influence worldwide climate patterns. They are rivers and waterfalls we can never observe without venturing deep into the darkness. There are animals that can see in complete darkness. In the deep ocean and lightless caverns, some animals possess eyes adapted to register even the weakest traces of light, or can see without light by sensing other signals. Certain deep-sea fish have huge, sensitive eyes that can capture flickers of bioluminescence, while others, like some snakes, perceive infrared heat signatures from prey. Cats and owls possess specialized retinas and reflective layers behind their eyes, boosting scarce light to hunt effectively at night. These adaptations permit them to navigate, eat, and communicate in places where human eyes would perceive only blackness. Certain plants can release heat. Some plants, like the eastern skunk cabbage, can produce enough heat to melt the snow around them in early spring. This capability, called thermogenesis, results from rapid chemical reactions in the plant cells that generate warmth rather than storing energy. The heat helps draw pollinators by dispersing scent and making the flower more conspicuous in cold conditions. In tropical areas, other plants utilize heat to strengthen their scent, attracting pollinators from further away. While uncommon, this ability demonstrates that plants can alter temperature in ways we typically associate only with animals. Some rocks are older than the continents. Dispersed across the Earth are mineral grains called zircons that date back over 4 billion years, more ancient than the oldest known continental crust. These minuscule crystals, often no larger than a sand grain, formed when the planet was still new, soon after the surface cooled sufficiently for liquid water to form. Found in places like Western Australia, zircons have endured erosion, burial, and geological reprocessing, carrying within them chemical information about Earth's earliest environment. Holding one is like holding a piece of the planet's infancy. There are insects that can walk on water. Water striders, with their long, slender legs, can move across the surface of ponds and streams without falling through. This is achievable because their legs are coated in microscopic hairs that repel water, combined with the surface tension of the water itself. By employing quick, controlled motions, they glide effortlessly to capture prey or flee from predators. Watching them move across a calm surface is like observing tiny skaters gliding on a liquid platform, each motion generating perfect ripples behind them. Certain forests can make their own clouds. In some tropical regions, vast forests assist in forming the clouds that drift above them. Trees discharge water vapor through a process called transpiration, releasing moisture into the air. When this vapor cools, it forms into clouds. And in dense forests like the Amazon, this cycle happens daily. The clouds not only deliver rain for the forest itself, but also affect weather far away, transporting moisture thousands of kilometers. Scientists have even noted that deforestation can diminish cloud formation, shifting entire climate systems. From above, these forest-generated clouds resemble soft blankets drifting over green oceans of leaves, each one a creation of innumerable small breaths from the living world below. Some animals can recognize themselves in mirrors. Self-recognition was previously considered an exclusively human trait, but several animals can pass the mirror test. When presented with a mirror, great apes, dolphins, elephants, and even specific birds like magpies can use their reflection to examine parts of their bodies they cannot usually see. This indicates a degree of self-awareness, the realization that this is me. In tests, animals marked with a small, harmless dot on their body will often use the mirror to examine or attempt to remove it. While not all creatures pass this evaluation, those that do suggest a form of consciousness we are only starting to grasp. There are plants that can eat small animals. Carnivorous plants like the Venus flytrap, sundew, and pitcher plant have evolved to capture and consume animals. Mostly insects, but occasionally even small frogs or lizards. They inhabit nutrient-poor soils, so they acquire supplemental nitrogen and minerals from their prey. Each species employs its own hunting method: sticky leaves, snapping traps, or deep pits filled with digestive fluids. Once an animal is secured, the plant slowly dissolves it over days, absorbing what it requires to live. These adaptations are not about aggression, but about survival, permitting plants to flourish where others would not. Certain lakes are filled with water so dense it's almost impossible to sink. In some hypersaline lakes, like the Dead Sea between Israel and Jordan, the water's salt content is so extreme that it is far denser than the human body. This density permits people to recline effortlessly on the surface without needing to tread water. The same characteristics make these lakes hostile to most aquatic life, though some microorganisms can endure in the salty environment. Floating here feels unusual, more like resting on a supportive cushion than moving through water. And the buoyancy is so great it can keep you upright without any effort. Some birds build structures more complex than human houses. Male bowerbirds in Australia are known for building intricate bowers to woo mates. These are arched or hut-like creations adorned with shells, flowers, feathers, and even colourful bits of plastic they discover. Each male cultivates his own aesthetic, placing objects by size, shape, or colour to appeal to females. Weaver birds, in contrast, fashion intricately looped nests hanging from branches, with entry tunnels crafted to thwart predators. These avian designers work with exactness and ingenuity, constructing homes and displays that match human craftsmanship in intricacy and appeal. There are stones that grow over time. In specific areas of Romania, peculiar rock formations called trovants seem to expand, altering their shape and size over decades. Following heavy rain, these stones can appear to sprout new layers, caused by mineral-rich water filtering through their porous composition and depositing extra material. While the growth is exceptionally slow, just a few millimeters a year, it challenges our idea of rocks as static, left undisturbed for centuries. These stones can become large enough to fragment or form strange, rounded shapes, as if the landscape itself were living and active. Certain creatures have existed unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Some species are so ideally suited to their environments that they have stayed virtually the same for immense periods of time. Horseshoe crabs, for instance, have been on Earth for over 400 million years, surviving numerous mass extinction events. The coelacanth, a deep-sea fish once believed to be extinct, still swims in much the same form it did over 300 million years ago. These living fossils are reminders that evolution does not always equate to change. Sometimes it means discovering a design so efficient that it lasts across geological eras. Some places on Earth have never been touched by humans. Even in our time of satellites and worldwide travel, there are parts of the planet where no human has ever walked. Some are distant mountain summits, concealed caverns, or deep ocean trenches. Others are remote islands or stretches of rainforest so thick they remain beyond reach. These untouched locations function as living time capsules, preserving ecosystems undisturbed for thousands of years. They remind us that despite our influence, much of Earth still belongs completely to itself. There are rivers beneath the ice of Antarctica. Beneath Antarctica's huge ice sheets, concealed rivers and lakes flow in darkness. These subglacial channels are kept liquid by geothermal warmth from below and the immense weight of the ice above. Some of these rivers link large lakes, forming entire hidden water systems. Scientists investigate them by drilling cautiously through the ice, uncovering microbial life that has been cut off for millions of years. These clandestine rivers show that even in one of the coldest, driest places on Earth, water continues to move and life continues to persist. Some deserts sing when the wind blows over their dunes. In a few sandy deserts, steady winds or shifting sand can generate deep, humming sounds that travel for kilometers. This singing, or booming, sound occurs when grains of a specific size and dryness slide together in large quantities, creating a resonant vibration. The sound can be powerful enough to feel in your chest, like a musical note played by the landscape itself. Marco Polo described such sounds during his journeys through the Gobi Desert centuries ago, and they continue to be one of the strangest and most beautiful natural phenomena in arid regions. And so, our slow exploration of the hidden marvels of nature comes to a gentle conclusion. We have meandered from ancient trees to luminous bays, from deserts that sing to forests that breathe, finding along the path that life's ingenuity has no limits. Some of these accounts were about survival, plants and animals adjusting to harsh conditions, finding methods to exist where life seems impossible. Others were about beauty, colors, patterns, and landscapes that feel as though they were crafted just to be observed. And many were about mystery, things we can only partially understand, leaving room for wonder to keep expanding. As you settle in now, you might imagine the quiet rhythm of a bioluminescent bay at night, or the slow rotation of a forest canopy generating its own clouds. You might float through an underwater kelp forest, or stand beneath an ancient tree that has witnessed more seasons than we can comprehend. The world is filled with places you may never see, yet they are there all the same, flourishing, changing, and guarding their secrets until someone pauses to look. And the reality is, you do not need to travel far to find them. Sometimes wonder is just outside your window, waiting in the sound of leaves or the cool aroma of rain. Thank you for allowing me to share these moments with you this evening. If you find you are still awake, you can feel free to watch the next video now. But if your eyes are feeling heavy and your thoughts are becoming soft, you can let them drift. Nature will still be present when you awaken, patient, ageless, and endlessly full of stories. Good night.